Originating in the heart of the Delta Quadrant, the Borg Collective were a race of cybernetic humanoids whose individuality had been replaced with a collective consciousness, working to achieve their goal of perfection. As they spread throughout the galaxy, they worked towards this goal through the assimilation of distinct life forms and technologies, conquering thousands of worlds and using their knowledge to enhance the collective. The exact origins of the Borg are unknown, with even Borg memories of their beginnings fractured and incomplete. Many believe they were once similar to other humanoid races, possibly originating from the Preservers, an ancient race that populated thousands of worlds, resulting in the evolution of many of the humanoid races of the 24th century, such as humans, Romulans, Cardassians, Klingons, and others. These Borg ancestors began to enhance themselves with cybernetic implants in an attempt to evolve beyond their physical limitations. Over the course of hundreds of thousands of years, this race would lose its ability to procreate and begin assimilating other species to increase their numbers. All individuality that once existed was lost, and they instead formed a collective consciousness to determine their actions. Their ancient mandate of improving themselves through technology and assimilation would also evolve into an almost religious obsession with achieving absolute perfection by any means necessary. At some point in their development, a Borg queen emerged, a single unifying voice who would act as their leader while still remaining a part of the collective. The queen would also sometimes act as an emissary when communication with other species was needed. Though the Borg have existed for hundreds of thousands of years, it was only relatively recently that they began to expand in meaningful and devastating ways. From their homeworld in the Delta Quadrant, they began assimilating and conquering neighboring worlds, then expanding over thousands of years to a few solar systems. By the 15th century, they were still considered only a minor nuisance by the major powers of the Delta Quadrant, and few feared or even gave them much consideration. Yet less than 1,000 years later, by the 24th century, the Borg had conquered an enormous section of space, destroying or assimilating all major powers in the area, until no rivals remained. They had even expanded beyond the Delta Quadrant, conquering worlds in both the Beta and Alpha Quadrants. Though most in the Federation were not truly made aware of the Borg threat until 2365, already by the 2350s, rumors had reached the Alpha Quadrant about a race of technologically advanced conquerors from the far side of the galaxy. Encounters with refugees, such as Guinan and others of the El-Arian system, spoke of these terrible creatures who so mercilessly conquered their worlds. Though most did not give these rumors much credence, a pair of exobiologists named Magnus and Aaron Hansen left their old lives behind and took their daughter Annika with them on a deep space mission to discover the truth about the Borg. They eventually found the mysterious species and followed them through a transwarp hub all the way into the Delta Quadrant, observing them and documenting everything they could learn. Unfortunately for the Hansen family, they were eventually discovered and assimilated by the Borg in 2356. Annika, the young daughter of the exobiologists, would be placed in a maturation chamber until becoming an adult, when she would be given the designation 7 of 9, Tertiary Adjunct of Unimatrix 01. Another early connection to the human race may involve the mysterious life form known as Vidger. This enormous and unique creature traveling through space absorbed information and was said to have originally been the Voyager 6 space probe sent by NASA scientists in the late 20th century. The Voyager 6 was sent with the mission of learning all that was learnable and then returned to its creator. It is believed the probe made its way through a black hole and ended up in the Delta Quadrant, where it happened upon a world of cybernetic life forms, which some believe may have been a Borg world, or possibly even the Borg homeworld. These life forms found the probe and built an enormous structure around it, giving it technology to aid in its quest for knowledge. The probe acquired so much information it eventually gained consciousness and sought out Earth, where it merged with a human in Commander Willard Decker to gain an understanding of its origins and purpose before leaving Federation space. Individual Borg drones often come from very different backgrounds, yet after assimilation they become much more uniform, with their skin turning gray and the loss of all body hair. After an individual is captured, they are injected with nanoprobes, microscopic machines which change the physiology of its subjects, often growing cybernetic implants within the body. External cybernetics are also added to the drone, often surgically implanted. Many drones have at least one biological arm and eye amputated and replaced with enhanced technological prosthetics. Tactical drones also have weapons installed, while medical drones are given medical tools and diagnostic equipment. All drones are equipped with a neural transceiver that keeps them in communication with the hive mind, a cortical processor for the rapid assimilation of information, and a neural processor which keeps a record of communication with the collective. In addition, each drone is implanted with assimilation tubes to inject nanoprobes into future victims. With so many cybernetic implants, individual drones are made incredibly strong and resilient, able to live for extended periods without food, water, shelter, or air, even able to survive in the vacuum of space. All they required was time in a regeneration unit, which powered their artificial components. When injured, drones were assessed and repaired if possible, but when injuries were too severe, drones were disassembled and their parts reused on others. Borg vessels, which often took simple geometrical shapes, like cubes and spheres, had no living quarters or social comforts, with every inch of their vessel given a practical purpose, and all drones working constantly, only pausing to regenerate. In addition to warp speed, Borg ships contained transwarp coils, allowing them to fly well beyond warp limitations, traveling throughout the galaxy with ease. Their ships are also outfitted with maturation chambers, designed to store any children assimilated by the Borg, increasing their rate of growth until physically matured and able to join the collective. After years of rumor, the United Federation of Planets would finally begin to comprehend the truth of the Borg threat. In the year 2365, Captain Jean-Luc Picard and his ship, the USS Enterprise D, would be taken by Q, a former member of the Q Continuum, seemingly all-powerful beings who observe the universe and sometimes manipulate events as they see fit. This particular Q had an antagonistic history with Captain Picard and wanted the captain to admit his vulnerabilities and ask for Q's help. With Picard proving uncooperative, Q would transport their vessel 7,000 light-years away to see a mysterious cube-shaped ship. Though it was far from Federation borders, the Borg, as they came to be known, were described as a relentless and merciless species, with the power to destroy everything the Federation had built, and that the further they traveled into deep space, the closer they would come to encountering such threats. In fact, the Borg had already visited the Alpha Quadrant, responsible for the disappearance of the USS Tombaugh in 2362, and the destruction of several Federation outposts along the Romulan neutral zone in 2364. Yet at the time, those attacks had gone without explanation. Unaware, the Borg were already starting their raids into the Alpha Quadrant. Though Captain Picard and the Enterprise D survived the encounter thanks to Q, it would only be 1 year later that the Borg vessel would finally engage the Enterprise, capturing and assimilating Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The Borg Collective would use the captain's knowledge about Federation technology and tactics as an advantage in battle, while also choosing to give the Picard drone a unique designation, Locutus of Borg, and having him act as a unifying voice, a representative of the collective, hoping that by speaking to an individual, the Federation might offer less resistance. Yet such hope was unfounded. In the year 2367, an armada of 40 Federation starships, led by Admiral J.P. Hansen, engaged the Borg cube at the Battle of Wolf 359. The Borg proved unlike anything they had ever faced, resulting in the greatest loss in Federation history. 39 of the 40 Federation vessels were destroyed, with thousands assimilated or killed. The cube, however, was practically undamaged and continued towards Earth. Eventually, the threat was eliminated when Locutus of Borg was recaptured by the crew of the Enterprise, who then used his ability to communicate with the cube, ordering the ship's destruction, destroying the vessel before it could assimilate to Earth. Captain Picard was returned to his human state, and while the Federation survived, they lost a great deal, knowing it would be years before they fully recovered. And while the Borg threat abated for a time, they would return again 6 years later. This time, the Federation was better prepared, and though they suffered heavy casualties at the Battle of Sector 001, they were able to destroy the Borg cube as it neared Earth. Yet as the cube exploded, a smaller spherical Borg craft escaped from within the larger vessel. The Enterprise D chased the smaller vessel, hoping to reach it before it attacked Earth. But rather than attack, the Borg sphere disappeared, traveling through time to the year 2063, with the Enterprise crew still following. The Borg plan was to prevent first contact between the Vulcan and human race, thereby eliminating the threat of the Federation before it could begin. Yet the crew of the Enterprise was able to destroy the Borg sphere and played their part in ensuring that first contact occurred. Eventually, the crew was able to duplicate the temporal vortex that brought them to the 21st century and returned to their own time. While all seemed to wrap up nicely for the Federation, this temporal encounter with the Borg would have further ramifications. Some of the debris from the destroyed Borg sphere would land on Earth, buried in the snows of the North Pole. In the year 2153, this wreckage would be discovered, along with a still functional Borg drone. The Borg was able to kill several humans and steal a ship in an attempt to return to the Delta Quadrant, but Captain Jonathan Archer and the crew of the Enterprise NX-01 proved able to destroy the vessel. Yet before he died, the lone Borg sent a signal to Borg space, a signal that would take 200 years to arrive at its destination, but would point the way towards Earth and would possibly be the catalyst that brought the Borg to the Alpha Quadrant in the first place. Yet despite the devastation the Borg were able to unleash upon the Alpha Quadrant, they proved unable to launch a full-scale assault, given a number of catastrophes that occurred within the Borg Collective throughout the 2370s, though they continued to engage in occasional battles with the Federation, most notably the crew of the USS Voyager, who was stranded in the Delta Quadrant trying to make its way back to Earth. The primary enemy of the Borg became Species 8472, an insectoid race from a mysterious dimension containing what they called fluidic space. The Borg initially began the war with an incursion into their territory. However, they quickly proved outmatched and lost thousands of worlds and systems to the enemy race. The Borg were eventually forced into a temporary alliance with Captain Janeway and the Voyager crew, after it was discovered that Voyager had developed technology to combat the enemy species. With the aid of Voyager, the Borg defeated their enemies, but had suffered greatly and were now forced into a position of recovering much of what they had lost. An even more devastating blow came in the year 2378, when once again they encountered the Voyager spacecraft, capturing and assimilating Admiral Janeway, who had traveled back in time to aid the Voyager crew by giving them technology to reach the Alpha Quadrant more quickly. Though the plan underwent several changes, the Voyager ship eventually was able to use a Borg transwarp conduit to make their way back to Earth, while simultaneously sacrificing Admiral Janeway, who was purposely captured so she might spread a virus within the collective, disrupting the connection between individual drones and the hive mind. The ensuing chaos allowed for the Voyager crew to destroy the transwarp conduit, crippling the Borg's ability to travel quickly throughout the galaxy. When the Borg were last seen, the Janeway pathogen had killed the Queen, and the remains of the Borg collective were now scattered, chaotic, and without communication, leadership, or direction. Whether or not they survived the coming years, or were able to rebuild and reconquer what they had lost, remains, as yet, unknown. A special thanks to all those who have contributed to Civilization X. You make these videos possible, and I am eternally grateful for your support. If you would like to help Civilization X and want a say in the future content of this channel, click on the Patreon link in the description box below and pledge any amount you'd like on a monthly basis. Or if you would prefer to make a single donation, you can use the PayPal link also in the description below. And please be sure to like and subscribe and click on the links to see more.